I want to set the stage for this next person. And I'm going to do it by centering some of the things that Baylen was talking about. Change that we want to see, the changes that we want to see, they start within us. They come from our story. They come from our testimony. From the space of community, they come from the people. Those who are living in the struggle are most equipped to be the leaders of the solutions to those struggles. And when we're looking to build communities and create these loving communities and bridge divides, you do it by centering those who are closest to the pain and building from there. And when you do that, as Baylen had mentioned, we can repair things. We can restore what has been broken. So the idea of showing love and kindness isn't just an exercise, it's actually the path forward. This person has been a giant for our city, for our state, for the country in building a path forward. And I know we're going to have a break and go into panel. But I want to just take this quick liberty to thank Judge Sadiqa Reynolds. Thank you for being a beacon for so many people. I don't think I've ever had a chance to do this to you. So I'm just taking that privilege because you are the proof that the change we're fighting for is actually possible. I would read Sadiqa's bio, but y'all know her story. I still call her judge because that's just, going up in law school and seeing people rise to that level. I'm like, I got to put respect on your name forevermore. The judge has told all of us about the trauma of her lived experience, the pain that she has suffered, the love that she has fought for herself and for her family, and then turned it into love for this city, and then picked up the reins at the Louisville Urban League and turned it into this magnet for the country. They had the audacity to think beyond what was and say that we can fight for justice in a city that has been one of the most segregated in the country. If I keep talking about you, I'm gonna get emotional. And not only has she devoted to making Louisville better, she's now taking that work nationally as CEO of Perception Institute, dedicating to addressing structural inequity by taking bias and flipping it on its ear and unpacking the things that have driven us apart so that we can create healthy communities. So what better person, other than the hood to the holler guy, but what better person to really help bring this point home of creating loving communities and bridging divides. So, Judge, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Bring it up. I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
All right, yeah, the magic is happening. They want to keep the show going. So, Judge, and if you want to come up here, and look, everybody's been coming to the podium since I've been up here. But if you could share a little bit about your work now. A little.
Okay.
Try,
Oh, well, think I'm to stay here? Okay.
Look, you're the queen.
No, I'm not that. I thank you all. It is really a pleasure to be here with you all. And the work that I do now is at Perception Institute. It's an organization based in New York. We're trying to work on the thing that I've spent my life working on, ending racism, ending bias, all of those things. It's an action-oriented think tank, and that is the work that we do. We've had the privilege of coming here and working in Louisville, and we do it in a lot of other places. And, I think with everything that is happening in our country, in our city, and in this world, what we have to have, and I appreciate these speakers so much, and Charles, you are wonderful. Thank you for the introduction, and thanks for the work that you do. I don't think we can say enough about the need for truth. We do not really care to examine the root cause of any of our pain because it is so uncomfortable, and people with power seem to constantly edit us, and it doesn't affect the change that we deserve. What I love about what you said, and when you had the storms, people came together. People come together when they see hurt, and especially if you are sitting here, all of a sudden I can see your humanity because you are sitting beside me, because I see you and I understand that you are somebody's child, somebody's friend, somebody's lover. But if I don't see you, if I don't see that in you, somehow we seem to allow people to suffer. We have dehumanized each other so much that we are in fact engaged in the dehumanization of ourselves. And so I believe, thank you. I believe that the God that I serve, and my whole purpose for living, is to help us see each other, see the dignity in one another. That is what Perception Institute is about. It is about how do we talk about one another? How do we see each other? How can I make sure that you can be heard and that I can be heard, and that there is space for us, not just space to be, but space to actually change things into what they should be. There should be more rooms like this. There should be more spaces where we listen to each other and we talk about what is the cause of the thing. And we change it. It is not enough to have the discussion, say what it is, and then do nothing to change it. You have power, you have privilege, and you do, whether you believe it or not. If you are in this room, if we are on this stage, we have power, we have privilege, but what do we do with it? What is different because you exist? What is better because you woke up this morning? What are we changing? We should be ashamed that there is a place in Kentucky where anybody is telling Charles Booker not to go. What is the matter with us? So I think, well, that's all, right? You said I don't even know what the question was, but I know, last thing I will say is, I am having a hard time in my life right now finding a place where I belong. Because everywhere I turn, there is dishonesty. If we do not decide to tell the truth, if we do not fight against editing what people learn in schools, if we do not fight for the rights of everyone, we are going to destroy ourselves. You cannot exist in freedom if I am not free. And I cannot exist in freedom if you are not free. We are very, very, very connected. And John Powell of Othering and Belonging Institute was just here, and he said children are connected to their mothers through the umbilical cord. We are literally born connected to another human being. There is no way to disconnect. And there is no way for me to preserve my humanity and disregard yours. That is the work.
Okay, it works. So we were supposed to have a break.
Yes, call it in, say, let's have the music interlude.
Okay, well, we're gonna give you a break because we've been laying it on. So we'll have a musical interlude and take a brief break.
Hi everyone, this is Nathan Salzberg again from the Alan Lomax Archive, introducing another piece of music I hope you'll find compelling and also relevant to the theme of this segment of the festival. The old congregational singing tradition of lining out was once widespread across Britain and America. Established in England in the 17th century, the practice involved a song leader or precentor intoning a psalm or hymn line by line, which the congregation would then sing back to him. In this way, worshipers, most of whom functionally illiterate, both of the written word and of musical notation, could be intimately involved in the worship service. It was a radically democratic approach to music making, and it sounded like it. There was nothing of the melodic unison or rhythmic lockstep that would be established when the praise singing was taken out of pews and moved into choir lofts, primarily by church fathers who found the lining out tradition too anarchic for their tastes. Today, however, lining hymns are increasingly rare and are sung primarily in the old regular and primitive Baptist churches of Central Appalachia, the Gaelic-speaking Presbyterian churches of Scotland's Western Isles, and a smattering of African-American congregations primarily in the South. In 2004, a group of Gaelic singers from the Hebridean Isle of Lewis joined a Black Presbyterian choir from Madison, Alabama at the Celtic Connections Festival in Edinburgh, Scotland, for a concert showcasing each tradition's approaches to lining out. They ended their presentation with a collaboration on Amazing Grace, which we'll hear now, in the democratic spirit of creating loving communities and bridging divides.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound.
All right, well, I'm still letting that settle in my spirit. I don't know about you. You've heard some very, I think, critical perspectives on different aspects of building and creating loving communities and bridging divides. So we're going to take a little bit of time and go into a little bit of dialogue. I'm going to throw some questions at you and hopefully get your wheels spinning as you listen. Because one of the things that the judge mentioned in the end that I think was really important is the necessity to speak the truth. Building, creating community, and bridging divides, that type of work, it's not easy work. And if you're not doing it right, if you're not uncomfortable, if you're not pushing yourself. And so, since we have a few minutes, and Kiana, I'll start with you, and we can just work our way down. what does building a loving community look like for you?
Yeah. I think that, as I mentioned, those little acts of love and service, and it always starts with showing up. The way that I got to where I am in the music scene is just by going to other people's shows and supporting them, buying a ticket and just sitting and watching and really absorbing and respecting that space they had on stage. And then I would talk to them and ask, okay, well, how did you get this gig? And they'd say, oh, well, the bar manager. So then I would go talk to them. But more to get to know why they did what they did, why they're passionate about it. There's a bar manager locally that I still go and watch him compete in cocktail competitions because that's where his passion is. And so I think building loving community starts with loving and supporting and showing up for those people. Again, not because you're expecting something from them or expecting an elevation, but just because they have passion and they deserve space for that passion.
Thank you, baby.
Yeah, I think, especially nowadays when it feels like we're living in almost like a post-rational society, very much what you're talking about. It is the simple things, it's the small things. The way we build loving communities is to really center and challenge ourselves to think about how we call folks in, rather than the constant barrage that we hear of calling folks out and wedging divides between us, because we've all always been here. We're not going anywhere. So call folks in and challenge yourself, challenge our own biases to understand where they're coming from, and sit in the weight of challenges. Find the gray space where we are disagreeing, embrace that discomfort, because conflict's gonna occur, but if we have conflict with the shared intention of progress, then that's where the real magic happens.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I would say that we need to get to know one another. We need to see each other for who we are. We need to think of ourselves as sisters, brothers, mothers, fathers, uncles, aunts, and see yourself in that other person. We really have to find a way to see the humanity in others. And I think that is the way to bridge the divide, to understand even where we don't agree on everything. Can I work with the things that we do agree on and find and move from there? Because if I can work with you on these few things, we disagree on all of this, but we agree on this. And so let's just work on these things. And while we're working on these things, we are getting to know each other. And then suddenly your perspective is changing and mine is changing, because the truth has never changed, right? So we just keep on, and eventually maybe the truth, you understand it different, I understand it different. And so I think that's important for us. To get to know one another and to really see the humanity in every person that we are exposed to. And certainly those we have power over.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I may piggyback on something that Baylen said, I think that calling in is so important for preserving loving communities. I think that those of you who may be familiar with my work musically, locally, have heard like, oh yeah, Kiana's always calling out that abuser, or calling out that, and not because I like to stir the pot or I want to, this, that, but because I know that our community is better than that. And anytime you notice harm within your communities, call that person in. Accountability is so important. And ask, what is it that's going on? Why am I hearing this? Why are we going through it? And how can we move through it and move out of it so that our community is welcoming and loving and healthy again? I think that is so important.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I think just one last thing.
Please.
Sometimes that pot needs stirred.
Hey.
Like if you're gonna cook something good, you gotta stir the pot, but you gotta know when and do it with care.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you stir the pot, you should know how to cook.
Yeah.
Because everybody,
That's a
we
word.
need to make sure we are equipped with what we need and to be able to make space for one another, to be able to say, here is my area of expertise and here is where I fall short, and sister, brother, other, whoever, can you help me? We have to make sure we are doing that because there are many of us in this country, in this city, and in this world, we cannot afford not to have our best putting their foot forward. And so we need to make sure that once we stir that pot, we understand how to cook, what's gonna happen, how do we serve, how does everybody eat, whatever the situation is. And that forethought, that ability, it's not enough to just, this conversation is so important and this work is so important. And time is of the essence. And I hope that we sense the urgency. And so what is required of us, I think, is to be in community and conversation and making sure that we are listening to our elders and also to younger people, and that we are getting the best of this information and we are gathering it and we are doing something with it, and that we have a plan, strategy.
Look, if we would say we were at church, this is a sanctuary, I would say touch your neighbor and say, stir the pot,
Stir the pot.
but know how to cook.
Amen.
Learn how to cook.
That's a bumper sticker.
Yes, it is. Somebody put that on the shirt. Now, I wanna be respectful of time. So look, you all throw something at me because otherwise I want to pose one sort of quick hitter question. I want our family here to be able to walk away with something actionable for themselves. And so if you could tell the audience one thing that would aid them in their journey of creating a loving community and bridging divides. And I'll start. The one thing that I would encourage you to do is listen. And when you listen, look to be uncomfortable and take the time to pull in a perspective that you might not have thought was valid. It's hard to build with somebody if you can't listen to them. And I passed legislation with folks who probably would have told my granddad to go around the back to vote. But we found common bonds by listening. So.
Yeah. Oof. Show up, really, compassionately. And if you're showing up for a single person or a group of people even, talk to them about that work and why they create it and why you care about it, and connect with them. And really make space and give space to people the same way you would want them to give space to you.
Agreed on both of those. I think also something that I'm coming to learn is to rest, to take time to take care of yourself, because you can't, especially folks who are involved in movement work and organizing, and when you feel like you're doing work where you're hitting a wall day after day, you have to be able to rest.
Yeah.
Because it's a long game.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I would say thank you for that rest. I like that. Grace. Give yourself grace. Find a way to give others grace. Sometimes people you love are going to make mistakes. Look at the entire track record. Like, grace, I think, is so important for us in every interaction. I think sometimes we're getting to a place where we assume the worst in everybody, and most people don't deserve that. Some certainly do, and they have proven that, honestly. I mean, let's just be real about it. But I think grace for ourselves is a really important thing. And then, since I didn't get up and talk, I'm going to take just another minute, because who cares? Invite me back or not. I don't care. I once saw Maya Angelou on Oprah, and she said that she was lying in her bed and she heard the door opening. And then she heard these footsteps coming towards her. And she leaned up in the bed and she reached over to the nightstand and she pulled out a gun. And she said, "Is this what you are willing to die doing?" And then she heard the footsteps going the other way, and then the door. I think there are too many of us that have not asked ourselves, is this the thing I am willing to die doing? If it is not, do something else. God created you for a purpose. Find your thing. Find your thing, because the world needs you. The world needs you, and the world needs you now. And that means if you're 14 or 12 or 11 or 17 or 35 or 55 or 75, if you are breathing, the world needs you. I need you. I've spent my whole life waiting for you. And so find the thing you are willing to die doing.